Hi again. So, where to start? And I decided to start with the beginning or how the war started this time because I want it to put somewhere to document it. I think my memories are already fading away from that moment, so I've put together like three parts of this video for the first few weeks and maybe a bit longer, some issues of the bit months is to go. But the beginning of the war, how we lived, what we felt, at least from my experience. And there are three main parts here. First of all, living, like how everything was operating here. The second of all is mental statement, mental issues, and the third of all is work. So yeah, I woke up at on the February 24th, early in the morning, and I didn't understand what was going on. I was hearing some shelling, but I didn't know what's going on or what's happening. And then my mom called and she said that well, the war has started, would you like to come to our house? And my parents, they live in Kyiv as well, but they live on the left bank, which is actually closer to Russia. And I said that I will not drive, and it wasn't very safe to drive that day and the next few days. And it was also quite a long drive. It would be because we almost instantly we've got lots of blockposts across the city. Where there were certain rules of how to cross them. So all the video registrators, so little cams that we have usually in our cars to record how we drive, and in case of any issues, there are some evidence. Anyway, those were banned, especially on the blockposts. You should decrease your speed, put down your windows. Sometimes they might even ask you for the ID. But I haven't been driving for the first 2 months. I was really afraid. And yes, I went to the shops. In grocery shops, they were still operating. I even still could pay by card because usually I don't have much cash on myself. And what we didn't have there, so in limited supply, there were things like bread, milk, eggs, and water. I could buy most of these things. I don't eat, so the only thing is for bread substitution, and for some other issues I bought frozen croissants. So the first month of war, my day started with coffee and freshly baked croissants, which is a very strange thing to say. But there was a secondary reason. Apart from everything accessible in grocery stores and for people with low income, so the government was giving away for free milk, bread, I think even eggs. So you could come into the store, and even I was offered like take a pack of milk, which I refused because I force myself to buy it if I want. Dog food wasn't that much available, and this kind of dog, so by the way, this is Juju, she lives with me. She's 8 years old and she's emotional support manager who works for food, and at that time her food was very limited, and breeds like that, you actually cannot switch dog food for them easily because they get allergies, they get lots of digestion issues. So the only way, and I was like, I had very little of her dog food at my apartment left, and I couldn't order anything. So to help her with her daily calories, I was baking croissants, and she got a few croissants as well in her food. So this is another reason why we had it. The water supplies. So in Ukraine, you cannot drink tap water, and this is not healthy. And usually we either bring by ourselves, but I live on the third floor without elevator, so it's not an option for myself. But I order delivery of 20-liter bottles of water. And I was lucky because I recently restored it, like just a few days before the war started. And we had light masking, so we had to switch off our lights in the evening, at night, or wherever. Not because at that time we didn't have any electricity issues, but so in order not to help navigate Russian artillery and air forces, etc. So if you remember, at the beginning of war, there was a footage of a high-stored residential building hit by a rocket. So this is very close to where I live, and I go there for grocery shopping. So I've heard that very, very strongly. So we had, like, on all of the publics, we had information about safety, like the main rule was the rule of 2 walls. So in between the outside and yourself there should be 2 walls. Like the first one takes the first hit, and then the second one protects you from the first one. In my apartment there are 2 places like that. It's either corridor or bathroom, and I stayed in bathroom because I have a heated floor there, and somehow I felt more safe there, also because it has a sound protection. And even with that, I've heard shelling. For the first 2 weeks it was like really very loud, but I think the most scary for me at the time was artillery. So when you hear these gunshots and automatic gunshots, it is really scary, because you understand that they are not that far from here. Although they entered Kyiv, so there were tanks in a different region of Kyiv, but they didn't come here. Yet the fighting line wasn't very far. So yeah, I decided, like, initially my decision was to stay in Kyiv whatever happens. My company was offering relocation even before that, like months before that. But my initial decision was to stay. My family stayed here, and I had no other option. And I will do a separate video on the reasons to stay and reasons to go. And I would never blame people who left the country, and I think both options are correct to do if you feel like doing so. So yeah, for the first 2 weeks I was sleeping in my bathroom, and that moves me to the second issue of stress and mental health. How was it operating during those days? Every morning I had to fight back with myself, my apartment. So it was scary to leave the bathroom, it was scary to leave my apartment even. And for 2 months I haven't been even driving my car anywhere. I barely was leaving my apartment. And from the window of my apartment I saw several occasions when Russian spies were located here, and then military came and arrested them. It was stressful to think that they are that close. I'm grateful for my coping mechanism, because usually when I'm under huge stress I study something new. So I search for anything new to study. And at that time it was behavioral sciences, and I was watching lectures of Robert Sapolsky daily. They are open, and they might be old, but they are still very relevant, from behavioral sciences. And that also pushed me to take a course on Coursera about neurobiology. I started watching Huberman Lab, also about neurobiology, and that was something that kept me sane, as well as my job, and as well as something that I will tell later that I was doing. So during the time we also had social hygiene rules appeared in Ukraine, main 4 things not to do. First of all, not to make photos or video of where the shelling hit, not to show the location, not to provide the location or like a feedback where the missile has got to the target. Uh, Not to share, if you were witnessing that, not to share any location in any messenger. And there was a brief time when we moved from one messenger to another, but not many people stayed there. Then not posting any photos of drones or shellings, especially with the numbers. Also not to provide feedback which one ended up where. And then according even to Ukrainian law, so you cannot do any photos or any video fixation of Ukrainian military items, objects, machinery, or basically anything. Even not to store it on your phone, well, for obvious reasons. And I once saw air defense system, so it's not staying in one place, so it's usually travels all around. And I once saw it, and it is a scary thing to observe. So I was keeping myself sane by studying something new. I stopped reading that much at the time, and I almost stopped listening to the music. And still I have like a playlist that has maybe 6 songs on it. This is the only music I can listen to. All the rest I just rejected. I usually used to read at least one book a month. Last year I've read not more than 4 books, and in August I've started therapy, because I've somewhere in May, April I started getting eating disorder, so I gained weight even more than I gained after COVID. So that was how I was processing and still processing, and it changes a lot, and memories are fading. Although I didn't go through such a stress as people who live in Bucha or Irpin, that is very close to Kyiv, and I used to travel there. They have amazing spa facilities, and the cities are very, very beautiful. They have very beautiful parks. They used to have, I don't know. I haven't traveled there this year. It's too traumatizing. Because people there were tortured, they were killed, and basically going there you will end up on a graveyard, because those cities are graveyards right now. And I kept on working. So my company was very understanding, and is very understanding and supporting. They don't operate in Russia anymore. I'm responsible not only for Ukraine, so I have a wider geography. They were very much okay that I would step aside and not do anything. I still did analytics, because data analysis for previous years, etc. This is something that calms me down. So if I need to just decrease the stress level, I need an Excel file with lots of data, and I can analyze it, and that makes me happy. Yeah, I'm such a freak. So I kept working, but not in ways that I used to. But to be fair, I joined the company on the 18th of January, so a bit more than a month before the war started. So before times were also very different. And my friend, he owns a news outlet. So at that time, I turned on the news, France 24 mostly. Everything that was communicated in Ukraine, I read through messenger channels. So we have news channels on various messengers where there is just an extract of what's happening, and I didn't watch any Ukrainian news. Instead, for me, it was crucial to understand how Europe and other world perceives this war, what is their attitude, how they serve it in the news. So I constantly had France 24 or BBC News on my background, and for my friend's news outlet, I was the one who was researching any updates, any statements, any briefing information from EU and from USA and Canada, and I was very quickly translating them from English to Ukrainian, just to serve the updates on what's happening, what real statements are. And I actually have a law degree, so I could navigate them easier than most of other people, and my English level helped me to do that really very quickly and help them out at that time. So for, I think, first 2 to 3 weeks, like I was responsible for that as well, and just learning, translating, and like monitoring the news and doing analytics for my job. That is something that kept me sane. And I think this is a point where I should apologize for any mistakes I do while speaking. I speak 5 languages, and there is none of them I can speak without mistakes, even my native languages. So yeah, basically very sorry, but this is something that the way I operate somehow. And this little creature, she also helped me because she's like always by myself. She was really very stressed because due to sound of shelling. Most of the dogs, they don't like fireworks or any loud sounds like that. She's not an exception, even though I think now she's way much easier with that, because recent shellings, they also happened not far from my house, and she was way much more calmer than she used to. So a strange benefit of war. I think that's all. I think it's already too long. I will try to cut it, and I will try to do my best to make the next video as soon as possible, because every time for me to make this video is a challenge, and to edit them and to publish them is another challenge. So hopefully it will be useful, at least for myself and for my therapist, by the way. Hello. That's all.